You know, one of my huge lessons in life is the beauty of variety and respect. And when I was 20 years old, I spent a few years traveling the world, living in religious communities. And I lived with Sikhs, I live with Buddhists, I live with Muslims during Ramadan, I live with yogis in the Himalayas, I live where the Dalai Lama lived. I lived with Christians in Europe. I lived in so many religious communities, and really everywhere it was so rich and meaningful. But my question, wherever I went, was, how do you experience? I like the theory, but how do you convert it into an experience? One of the things I just feel I really have the deepest regard for traditions. We are all unique. What resonates with me doesn't resonate with other people, and vice versa. But for me, when I was offered the idea of the soul, the consciousness, this point, and I started to experiment, if I can use the language, almost becoming bodiless. I found almost as much as I could let go the consciousness of the temporary self and all the labels and really step into this feeling of being an eternal point, the consciousness of the soul. It like opened the door to spiritual feelings, spiritual experience. It's almost like as much as I could let go the consciousness of my body, I could taste the feeling. But then also, meditation is when you're in this state, a union with a higher power, with God. And I found that the more I could detach from my body, it's almost like I entered that world and was able to connect with a power that filled my mind with so many flavors of feelings, you know. But it was almost dependent, as much as I could let go what I would call the false self, the ego self, the body conscious self, I opened the door to spirituality and spiritual experience, which sometimes, you know, there's so much thinking and beliefs and analysis and all that. But when you taste a feeling, that just is the real power of spirituality. But it's a journey, and I think we know that it takes time. It's a journey. And we have, once Daddy Janki was meeting a group of us, and she said, you need 3 things on the spiritual journey. The first is patience. The second is patience. And guess what the third one was? More patience. Because the journey of self-change, the journey of learning about the self, you need, because we know how deeply embedded feelings and natures and behaviors are so deeply embedded.
Well, before I weigh in on that, I just wanted to go back to the self, the true self being a jail. And my understanding is the more one evolves in consciousness, there is a freedom experience. It's called liberation, and it's called liberation in life. Mukti and Jivan Mukti. And what does that liberation in life, what are we aspiring to when we say liberation in life? There are 3 things that describe the being in that state. And one is incorporeal, that being of consciousness. The other is being egoless. And the third is being viceless. And when I attain that state, I know I'm free. The practice is very simple, according to the Brahma Kumaris. Before you think, consider yourself to be this incorporeal being before you think. Be in the right awareness. Before you act, ask yourself, what belongs to me? What is mine? And what is I? Is it the I of the ego? Or is it the I of self-respect or this humility? Do I own anything here? Do I own this body? Or am I a trustee of this body? So one is the consciousness of who I am. I'm a soul, I'm an incorporeal being. But a second, before I act, remove the I and the mind of possessiveness, the ego, and be the trustee. The instrument consciousness, the trustee consciousness. Nothing belongs to me. When I leave this body, I leave the body behind, and someone else gets rid of it, not me. But how was the body used? In what consciousness? And viceless. Am I contributing through my thoughts, words, actions, through my resources, to climate change? What's my carbon footprint? What's my karmic footprint? So I feel it's one thing to say, I don't believe in the authentic self, or the true self is a jail. But have I ever considered that the true self can liberate me from the jail of Ravan's kingdom? It was said that the kingdom of God exists inside of the human soul. But what wasn't said, that there's a king and queen in that kingdom. And that king and queen needs to run that kingdom. Well, what kingdom are they talking about? Is it running a country? Is it running a region? Is it running the world? Or is it running my own self, being the master of myself? So the king and queen of myself. I need to be the master of myself. And that's where it begins. It's a developed skill that I need to master. It is not going to happen by just wishful thinking and by saying it does or it doesn't exist. So when it comes to discovering, exploring, experiencing, it's a process. But it's a process that calls for a deeper commitment to the sanctity of life, to the reverence of life. Because if I can't do it for myself, I won't be able to do it for someone else. If I can't liberate myself from the limitations that I blame others for imposing on me, it's my duty to liberate myself from it. But I need wisdom. And sometimes, going back to your question, the traditions are there, so is the Brahma Kumari's tradition. And it is theory until I take the challenge to say, let me make this theory, let me see if it works. Let me see if it works for me. And so, Zen Buddhism, for instance, talk about emptying yourself. And I thought about that, and I said, that's such a wonderful concept. That if I empty myself, and I empty myself, where would it take me? And for me, it would take me to my true self. And that true self will be experienced by me, the soul. And so I feel that don't dismiss anything that comes your way, because one of the words when I was capturing what you said this morning was learning. It's a lifelong learning process. And within that lifelong learning process, the humility is we're all students. But we are aspiring to be masters. We are aspiring to be sovereigns. Why? Because deep in our subconscious, we know the truth exists. But truth doesn't exist out there. It exists in the conscience of the human beings. And that is something that has gone asleep. So when we talk about awakening, what are we awakening? What does the soul constitute that makes it false or true? And I think that is what we have to understand. What is the mind? What is the intellect? What are characteristics? Where does love live? What is the source of love? When I go in pursuit of happiness, I'm turning corners after corner in pursuit of happiness. But every material thing that gives me happiness may rob me of an inner happiness. So what's the source of these spiritual rights that are evading us as we claim our human rights? We are getting less and less of our spiritual rights. And how are we going to claim those spiritual rights? And where are those spiritual rights going to take us? These are all things we have to unpack. It requires a consistency in an effort that is taking us out of the limitations and conditions that we blame the world for putting us in. But who's going to take us out? And so for me, the traditions are beautiful and shouldn't be dismissed because there are learnings there for everyone. However, I think the call of the time is for individuals to step up and stop blaming dogma for limiting them, or for causing wars, or for dividing, putting us into silos, or for killing one another unnecessarily.
She